All right, we'll work to get retired Navy SEAL Mike Sarraille on the phone there. As you do that, and you're waking up right now, major combat operations have begun with multiple targets struck across Iran. We have live team coverage coming across the Middle East, and we are watching. This is the map here, the naval assets in the Middle East, significantly with the USS Gerald Ford in the Eastern Mediterranean, the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. All right, I believe we've got retired Navy SEAL Mike Sarraille on the line. Mike, as we're waking up, the nation is waking up to this major operation. The Pentagon has dubbed it Operation Epic Fury. What are your thoughts?
Well, good morning, guys. First off, my thoughts and prayers are with our brave soldiers and their families back here in the United States who are probably on edge for the safety of their people. But quite interesting what's going on right now. Let me give you a description of what I think is going on. Primary and up front, we want to establish air and sea dominance. It's interesting that Israel and what we're being told is striking the political leadership or military leadership. The U.S. is most likely focused, again, with the air dominance of something conducting what we call SEAD and DAD, which is the suppression and destruction of enemy air defenses. So we're most likely focused on taking out radars, surface-to-air missile sites, command links. We basically want to blind them. We want to deafen them. And this is opening up the corridors for future strikes. So the counter-missile campaign is going to be a focus. We're going to be hunting their launchers, their depots, and their production and support nodes. Naturally, as per President Trump's address, the nuclear sites are a focus, but you want to focus on anything that can be a direct threat to our bombers or fighters as they come in. If you look at this as a phase, we're opening the airspace and we're probably blunting Iran's missile capability. But what a huge concern here is the suppression of Iran's missile capability. They understand that our magazine depth, whether it's the Iron Dome, it's David Sling, or even our air defense and strike capabilities, our magazine depth is only so much. So we've got to keep an eye. They're going to most likely hit us with their cheaper drones to erode at our magazine depth over the next few days. That's ultimately their goal, so that ballistic or cruise missiles can make it into Israel or strike our sea power, both in the Gulf and in the Med.
Mike, you really hit on something I think is very significant and something that I think we're going to hear a lot about, and that is the SEAD likely initial operation. That's the suppression and destruction of enemy air defenses. Talk to me a little bit about how those F-22 Raptors working in tandem with our elite F-35 jets likely played a role in getting in, mapping those air defenses of Iran, targeting them, and ultimately trying to disable them and take them out.
Yeah, great question. So for the audience, a good way of thinking about this is the suppression of enemy air defense is the intent is to blind them and pin them down. You jam radars, you force the SAM crews to shut down, you disrupt their command links and keep defenses from effectively engaging our forces or striking Israel. The DEAD is the destruction. That's when we kill the system. You destroy the radars, their launcher vehicles, their command posts, and supporting power and communications so the threats stay down. That is, without a doubt, the goal in this initial phase. Now, you mentioned the F-22 or the F-22s and the F-35s. The F-22s are one of the most advanced, as well as the F-35, advanced fighter systems in the world. One of the, beyond air-to-air combat, one of the primary roles of the F-22 is almost taken as its job is to paint a yellow brick road for the fighters and the bombers coming behind them in order to strike military or political targets. So the F-22 from far or long-range distances can not only disrupt, but also destroy their surface-to-air capabilities. And that's what we want to focus on in the next few hours. If we can completely shut down their ability to confront or combat our fighters and bombers, then we've paved that yellow brick road for what will be a sustained campaign until hopefully, again, according to the president's message to the people of Iran, they rise up.
And Mike, some of the military guys I talk with describe this initial Ciad operation as sort of kicking down the door, the initial kicking down of the door to lay and pave that road. We saw this similar in the operation, it seems, in Venezuela when we took Nicolas Maduro. So much, it was so successful that it appeared that really the missile defense of Venezuela, which is provided by Russian technology, which is similar, we believe, to what's in Iran, it was so successful that literally no shot essentially got sent by Venezuela against our forces.
You're accurate. And this is the technologically advanced nature of our military today and the men and women that control and employ those systems. What's sort of shocking at this point is the lack of response or the strikes from Iran. Again, this could be an indicator of the campaign in June. We degraded their systems and their missile batteries to a point where they don't have much left. So once these initial phases of the Ciad and the Niad are complete, expect larger campaigns similar to what we saw in the shock and awe in the early days of the Iraq campaign in 2003. So this will continue. We will become more effective with our strikes in eroding their military nodes, their Navy, and that is a big thing to keep in mind. So we don't want disruption to the maritime or shipping lanes. So expect that we're going to target the IRGC Navy at a heavy rate. Additionally, the IRGC Navy has a large mining capability. So that is going to be a key objective in the early days, is to erode their Navy, that it does not affect the Strait of Hormuz. This is also where it brings in the Houthis, who have the potential to disrupt the Red Sea, which is also a major oil and LNG maritime shipping lane. So our dominance of the sea is going to be a priority, as well as that air dominance, to ensure that shipping lanes are not disrupted, as well as we are providing what we call a white space for both our carrier strike groups in the Med, in the Gulf, to remain safe, and the ability to continue sustained strikes for days, if not weeks.
And Mike, as you talk about that dominance in the sea being as important as the air dominance, what are we likely headed for? Because we are hearing, obviously, from the Pentagon, from well-placed U.S. officials that are saying that this is not going to be hours, this is going to be days.
Yes. Days not only to degrade the military targets as well as the Iranian leadership, but here's something to consider. We're expecting a regime change. That is the goal. That is what President Trump articulated. So right now, we're not going to see a response from the Iranian people. They're not going to uprise in the early hours. Like any natural human, if I was in their position with my family, I'd be hunkered down. I'd be waiting to see how the situation develops before we see any, let's say, coordinated effort with the protests from the Iranian people that we've seen over the weeks, before something of substance becomes available to us. They're going to wait. They're going to see how the U.S. and Israel strike Iran, where they erode their capabilities. And we know that strikes have taken place in Tehran, as well as many provinces across Iran. So don't expect an uprising from the Iranian people in the early days. Again, they're going to wait for the situation to develop, much like the military does.
And they will wait for that battle damage assessment to find out about the targets. And you're seeing a lot of the areas struck on your screen now in this map. We don't yet have a battle damage assessment. Perhaps that will come when President Trump speaks to the nation again later this morning. Retired Navy SEAL Mike Sarraille, excellent insight and observations as always. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. God bless America.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.